is going on, my friends? Welcome to the first ever episode of From the Stands XFL Season 2020. This is our show for Week 1. It's going to be a little bit different than our previous shows in the college football scene and our future shows that we will do here for the XFL. A little bit less structured, and that's because we want to use this opportunity to get to know you guys and let you guys get to know us, the r/XFL community and the other communities out there that we spend a good deal of our time with and on. So Dick here, our good friend Dick, he's going to explain to us a little bit about what we do, who we are, why we're here, why we do it, and what we love to drink while doing it.
So, tonight the answer to that last question is a nice, refreshing blue moon. You all saw me eat chip that orange earlier on before we start broadcasting. So here at From the Stands, we're all about unconventional conversation about unconventional football. We're the biggest college football fans you're going to find. We love that sport just because of how quirky, how different it is. It's completely different from anything you'd ever see in pretty much any other professional sport or anything at that high of a level. So we're really excited to start talking about the XFL. It's really going to be our first soiree, if you will, into pro sports, which what we're hoping is that a lot of what we've come to love from the college game in terms of the quirks of the game, the expressiveness of the players, how you build a personality, is going to translate a little bit better to this than we've seen in the NFL.
And I think that's a huge thing because, I mean, the XFL, we've got these new rules and all these, these coaches that are coming in, like, it all seems to be, it's going to be a really offense-heavy, league. It's literally, I think it's going to be the Big 12 of professional football. And I think you're going to see a lot of Big 12 players actually not go to the NFL to go to the XFL. Not now because the money's just not there. But if the XFL continues to trend the way it does and it gains popularity, I think you'll see a lot of like Big 12, possibly even Pac-12 teams gravitate more towards the XFL. And I think you might get some splitting of the East Coast conferences going more towards the NFL, and because that's that style, that's East Coast style football caters better to the NFL. Granted, the NFL is of course getting a little bit closer to the spread these days, but when it comes down to the Big 12, very pass heavy, spread, air raids, and that's kind of what you, with the new rule set for the XFL, kind of what you're going to expect to see is spreading out that field, especially with the extra point stuff.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of...
Wait. Who are you? What's your name? Where are you from?
Yeah. I'm JJ Apostolico. I'm from Nazareth, Pennsylvania. It's a little bit outside of Philadelphia. Penn State alum. I've been on the show before for college football. Now we're getting ready to break down some XFL.
There we go.
Yeah, sorry. All right,
okay,
so... Yeah,
continue.
so I think we're going to see a lot more eventually, maybe not right away because the coaches don't really match up with that yet. You're going to see a lot more air raid because as we'll get into these different rule changes, it's not really that advantageous to run the ball. And I think it's going to become almost, maybe not completely like 7-on-7 drills, but you're going to see lots of passing. And I think it's going to eventually turn into lots of scoring.
Yeah, since we went ahead and got on this topic, let's go ahead and talk about these rule changes. All right, we'll start with the common sense rules because they're the least sort of exciting, if you will, right? 1 foot inbounds. We'll go down the list. Agree, disagree, and how do you think this changes the game? 1 foot inbounds, JJ.
Yeah, I agree with it. I mean, it makes sense. Just like, in the NFL, the only body part you have to get 2 of in bounds is your feet. Any other single body part you can get in bounds is a catch. So if you can make a crazy lunging acrobatic catch with 1 foot in bounds, you're still catching the ball. Your body is still in bounds when you're controlling it. It makes sense for it to be a catch with 1 foot.
I can see that. Dick, your thoughts? Do you have any thoughts on the 1 foot inbound?
We're all college football fans here. I don't think there's anything that we're going to get pushback on from us, at least.
True.
if you're focusing on spreading out the field and focusing on offense, 1 foot in bounds does a lot. I mean, if this was kind of a deviation from the norm, I might be a little bit more worried for how the defense is going to stop it. But these guys, this is exactly what they saw in college. For a lot of these players, they didn't play a whole lot at the NFL level. So I think this is going to be a return to the norm more than anything else.
All right, there's a couple other ones I want to talk about. The ball spotting official. I'll talk about that one first. So basically, if you don't know what the ball spotting official is, that's basically a referee or an official that's sole job is to spot where the ball is supposed to be and get the ball there as quickly as possible. That's his whole job. That's it. That's what he does. He gets paid probably like $75 a game to just play with balls all day. That's it. That's all he does. He knows where that ball is supposed to be 100% of the time. That's his job. I like it. It's definitely going to speed the game up. How many times have these spread and air raid offenses been slowed down by officiating crews from, other conferences? Like when an SEC reffing crew comes into a Big 12 game, right? You can tell the difference between how quickly they spot the ball. Because Big 12 referee crews are used to this, play. And the SEC, they're not as used to that, so it gives the advantage to slower teams.
I like the rule change. If simply so that we're less reliant on kind of the pausing and the I guess leniency, that slack that you spoke about. I'm not going to agree with you in whatever anti-SEC thing that you have going on right now.
There's it's not anti-SEC.
I do think it's a good addition, though.
It's not anti-SEC. They're just not used to it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. They're just not used to having that to get that ball spotted as quickly.
You do seem to forget you were in the Big 12 not that long ago.
Yeah, A&M.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the ball spotting official is another one that's kind of a no-brainer. You see in the NFL there's a Twitter account, like Bad Sports Officiating, and half of them are referees just kind of like, I think the ball goes here. I'm not really sure. But yeah, we'll give them an extra yard or take a yard. Like, if you have someone that their only job is to get that right, you're going to get it right more times than not. So I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
And the other day, I had somebody in the office talk about what's the biggest sports thing that you can't believe we still do in 2020. The one that I heard that made the most sense was kind of the chain gang, that we use a chain gang in football. The NFL is $1 million industry. College football is $1 million industry. And we still are relying on like two 50, 60-year-old guys with yardsticks and a chain between them to tell us where the ball goes.
Well, you go to A&M, you know everything about tradition, right? That's a tradition thing.
I mean, I like it. I mean, obviously they're still going to use chains, but I mean, the less reliant we can be on something like that human error, just having one guy focus, zero in on that, I feel like that's just going to reduce any kind of white noise there might be.
Well, what do you guys think about, there's a lot of timing changes. We can kind of wrap all these up. So basically what's going on is they're just overall reducing the amount of time it takes to watch and play a football game. During the springtime, I guess, you want to get in and out as quickly as possible. I don't know. So I think they're trying to make it an average of like 2.5 to 3 hours maximum for a game to be happening versus, some college games can do that depending on the network and depending on the teams. NFL games, it seems like they're just getting longer and longer and longer every single year. I mean, how long was the Super Bowl this year? Even if you take out the halftime show, it's still like 4 hours long. It's crazy.
And that was one of the shorter ones in
that was
memory.
One of the shorter ones we've had because it had the Kansas City's a speed offense.
I mean, how long was the national championship this year? I remember we were 2 hours in, and we weren't even at halftime.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that 25-second play clock's going to be doing a lot in order to they're trying to get it down. Maybe not exactly to movie length, but close to it. which to me makes a lot of sense. You know, if you're trying to sell tickets, you can say what you will about TV dollars and streaming rights really bringing the money, and that's absolutely right. But the optics of an empty stadium is just absolutely 100% detrimental to a new league. So to try to get people in and out and have them think about, oh, I can go to a football game the same way I go to a movie, where I can go and then kind of be out in 2.5, 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's really the right move.
Yeah, and I think that when you combine the running game clock outside of 2 minutes and you have the 25-second play clock, you'll still have a pretty close to the same amount of plays that they run in the NFL, and the clock's just going to keep running. So you'll be able to run more plays or run about the same amount of plays, and the game's not going to take as long. Another reason that they're going to be able to do that is which I don't know why they don't do this in the NFL, is the coach-to-player communication headsets that they're going to have now. Yeah. And they're going to have it for every skill position player on offense and defense. So they're going to be able to put the players in position right as soon as the next play is about to start. So they'll be able to tell the receivers, all right, this play, you got to line up on this side, running backs line up here, and they don't have to wait for the quarterback to signal in and, tell everybody what the play is. Everything is going to eventually run more smoothly, and I think you're going to see the teams that do this coach-to-player communication the best are going to be the ones that have the most success early on this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be that kind of rapid-fire, boom, 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 hurry-up offense on steroids that we're going to be seeing a lot of. That is, I mean, to the casual fan, be the most revolutionary thing about what we're seeing.
Oh, I agree. So let's talk about some of these bigger rule changes. They have 5 gameplay innovations that they've really pointed out, and there's actually a whole bunch of rule changes, probably hundreds of variants of rules. But these are the big ones that they wanted to point out, and made fancy little videos and everything for. But the new kickoff system, the new kickoff system is great. Number one, for player safety and longevity, because let's be realistic. If football cannot get to a point where it's safer to play, we won't be playing it in 50 years. We just won't. Parents aren't going to allow their children to play it. Children aren't going to fall in love with it, and children aren't going to go play in college and then professionally, right? And that's just a natural order of things. So I applaud the XFL for the changes they've made and being able to be in a position to try these things out. The kickoff is going to be a lot safer now than it was. It's still going to be dangerous, but it's inherent.
Well, to me, with the kickoff, and granted, I've read a lot of this rather than actually watching the scrimmages and the example plays that they have, but it's my understanding that the way it works now is that the kicking team must wait for the receiver to field the ball before they can advance.
They have to touch the ball. Once they touch the ball, then the play begins.
Exactly, and they have to kick it. The rule is basically designed to discourage touchbacks.
Yes.
Encourage returns, but do it in a way to where the returner actually has a little bit more of an advantage than they would typically have.
It's more like a running play from way back in the backfield versus, clashing into people at what are some NFL speeds? It's kind of ridiculous how fast they can run. I mean,
so I would really like to see this because I've always kind of abhorred the idea of removing the kickoff from the game, because when you do that, you're really diminishing what's one of really a few skill positions on the field. You have offense, kicking, and when you remove kicking, you really just have offense. So I like that they're transitioning it in a way that's separate from what the AAF attempted, which is just removing something that traditionally is the foundation of the game.
Well, I mean, when you start getting rid of the kickoff, especially in a league like this where you don't really have punts, like punts are technically a part of the game, but not really, because it's just a terrible idea to punt. Like, where's the foot in the ball? Where's the foot anymore? Yeah. It's just ball. And then the British were right. We're just playing hand egg now, right? So I like the kickoff. It's a fun way to start. It's an iconic signaling of the beginning of a contest and of a battle that you're about to witness. And I don't think getting rid of it's the right call. I think this goes a long way to cull some of the danger while keeping the spectacle of the kickoff.
I kind of disagree with you guys on this one.
Well, your opinion
I
is incorrect.
I don't love it. I think it's a little overly complicated, and I think it's going to get clunky in certain spots. Like the kicker has to put the ball between the goal line and the 20-yard line. You can't kick it out of bounds, can't kick it in the end zone, or else you get the ball out of the 45 or the 35 if it's a touchback, 45 if it's out of bounds, which is amazing field position for the offense, obviously. And the other thing is if it's not caught right away, the kicking team still has to wait 3 seconds if no one touches it before they can move. Who's going to enforce that? How are they going to enforce that? Like, are they going to have a clock that's running in case that the ball is not caught right away?
I would imagine they'll have someone like a back judge or something that'll have a hand signal to, say when the time is up or whatever. Just like, they do.
Are they going to blow a whistle to signify it? Because then if they blow a whistle, then it's the play over. To me, that part's a little confusing to me. I worry about that part a little bit.
I'm with you 100%. If you're looking at it in a vacuum, football's already criticized as being like way too Byzantine in the way that it's played, orchestrated, and enforced. I'm with you 100% on that. It's going to be a lot harder to replicate the XFL's rule set if you were just playing, as a kid, backyard, in the street, whatever. I think the XFL is taking into account just where they are in terms of positioning. And I would honestly be shocked if they don't have a 1, 2, 3 counting down on a clock that the players can see.
That would work.
Like, I remember when I played football, like way back when in high school, we obviously got to see the play clock. It was displayed at either end zone. So to me, it would make sense if on the play clock they have 3, 2, 1 counting down, the players are able to see.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I'm sure once we see these games, I think some of these like crazy things will make more sense. Like, because there's probably a logical answer to all. Because some of the rules are a little crazy and a little bit out there. But I think that once we actually see them take place, we'll see sort of a lot of our questions are going to be answered, hopefully. And then the ones that aren't, we can go into that next week.
JJ, your kind of last thought on it?
Well, yeah, I think, again, I think I also worry a little bit about a lot of the other parts of the rules that we'll get into. They kind of don't get into like a field position battle like NFL football gets into. You see, a lot of the time the teams are going to take over around midfield. And I think in this case, the only time that you're really going to have to go the length of the field is when you're kicking off. I worry a little bit about if a team, struggles early, you could end up getting blowouts too, because you're going to have lopsided field position for the whole game. Because on a kickoff, with everybody being that close, I would imagine that you're not going to have as good a field position as, on punts, which we'll get into. You're probably going to be around midfield almost all the time.
Yeah.
So, Rule 2, Caleb, if you want to.
So, we're not going to talk about the punt because basically the punt doesn't exist anymore. It does, but it's made to discourage punting. Basically, it's better for you to try to go for it on fourth most of the time than it would be to punt it. We'll see it in the game, and if it, I feel like we're just not going to see very much punting. If we have something different, I'd like to bring it up and talk about it on an episode, but I think generally speaking, you're just not going to see the punt very often. Especially if you get at least, your first down. So, but I do want to talk about, quickly, I want to talk about the double forward pass, right? I am on the fence on this one. I like it because it can create some scenarios of chaos, and I love team chaos. But also, I feel like it's going to be overused and overplayed. That's a fear of mine, and that, it's going to become a league of trick plays. That's a fear that I have with this forward double pass situation. I feel like, or I fear that the game is going to become just trick play after trick play after trick play to a point where then it's just a regular play, and it loses some of the excitement, right? So that's where it's not so bad or that it would become normal. It's just that normalcy is going to cause it to lose its excitement in other leagues that don't have that double forward pass.
I actually really like it. I think you're going to see a lot of innovation out of this. I think you're going to see a lot of some of these younger offensive minds that are in the league. They're going to find guys that are, that maybe played quarterback in college, but want to play wide receiver now. They'll have plays set up where they can do that little flip pass, and then the offensive lineman, maybe they'll slide to the left, and you can set up a new pocket almost completely to another side of the field with a different person trying to throw the football. And I think there's a lot of really interesting things that they can do with this. I don't think it's something they're going to do all the time, but it would also allow the league to stand out a little bit. I don't think their goal is to be the same as college football or be the same as the NFL. Otherwise, they would have just done the same set of rules, right? So I'm looking forward to seeing some plays that are very, very different. I don't think they're going to run them all the time, but I think it's going to allow for a lot more innovation, and it might actually attract some, younger head coaches, younger offensive minds to come to the league and try some of these plays out.
I'm right there with you, JJ. When you look at it, to me, if you want a league that is high-powered, explosive, high-scoring, the easiest way to me to distinguish yourself and stand out is to just kind of double the ground that all these coaches have to work with. You know what I mean? It's going to be really interesting to me to see how it plays out. I have no idea what scores are going to look like opening day onward, just because. But I'm excited. I've never heard of anything like this being attempted. It's totally wild to me. It's a very easy way for the XFL to stand out as opposed to anything we've seen before.
Yeah, we did an internal. That we're not going to bring it out and display it publicly. I just want to talk about. We had an internal sort of power ranking system. What our internal people thought the way the league would shape out in terms of a ranking system there, and on that thing was some scores. We wanted to see scores of what we thought would be for all of these games that are being played this week, and I was looking at the results, and they are all over the place. There's some people that have gone the full, CFB route, and they've, 21-13, 21-17. And then there's people that are just like 75 to 92, and like just you have to throw out the conventions of, 7, 14, 21, 28, or 7, 10, 13. You can't, because you never know, right? It could be 7 this play, but then 9. You could get 9 the next play. Or the next touchdown, the next team. So your scoring conventions, whenever you're making like betting lines and things like that, you can't think the same way when you're coming up with your scores. And so it was really fun to see sort of the way it goes. I will say this: us internally agree with Vegas in terms of who will win the XFL Season 1. Who do you think that is?
Renegades raise some hell?
I think the Vegas favorite is Dallas. Believe,
yes,
right?
The Vegas is Vegas has Dallas
raise
as
some
the winner. Raise some.
I disagree with that, but we'll get into that.
What are you thinking? What are you thinking?
I think it's going to be Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay.
Oh.
Because of Callaway?
We saw
they have Mark Trestman as their head coach. He's a CFL coach, former coach of the Bears too. I think the coaches that were in the CFL, they have a significant advantage because they are used to calling in plays through this communication system. And the Tampa Bay specifically, their whole staff is CFL. So their receivers coach, their running backs coach, their linebackers coach, everybody has familiarity with running the system. I think it might be a little clunky for some teams week 1, 2, 3, I think they'll get out to a head start, and I also think that they've got a pretty talented roster as well. I think they're going to be in pretty good shape early on, and they'll be able to carry that throughout.
Okay, that's fair. I don't want to. I mean, I disagree with you, and you're wrong, but I don't want to spread the bias out too far.
Okay, we do still have 2 more game innovations to get through. Last time I checked.
Yes. So point after touchdown. We talked about this a little bit just now with the scoring system being different, and the reason is that when you score a touchdown in the XFL, it's not kick the field goal. There are no field goals in the XFL, or point after field goals, not field goals. And then there are 2-point conversions, but there's also 1-point conversions and 3-point conversions, starting from the 2, 5, and 10-yard lines, respectively. So if you want 1 point, you have to get another touchdown, more or less, from the 2-yard line. If you get the 2 points, 5-yard line, for 3 points from the 10-yard line. And again, this is why we were talking earlier about, the XFL being a spread-heavy air raid offenses because of this. Because it's easier if you can have badass receivers with a solid quarterback. And obviously the offensive line is going to be a major factor in the XFL as well, because having that pocket that ability to stay in that pocket as long as you can is going to be incredibly important. So I think you're going to see 2 archetypes of quarterback come out because of this, from pocket passers who are going to stay in the pocket and calculate, and then you're going to have scramblers, right, who are going to be able to make the play on the outside. And with that forward double pass, I think you're going to see those scramblers. I think you're going to see quarterbacks becoming, receivers a bit, and wide receivers that are, coming into the backfield, or even quarterbacks are going to be running backs because of their ability to throw the ball and run the ball.
I like the 3-point conversion a lot. I wish you could still kick an extra point. Just me as a little bit of a traditionalist, I wish that was still an option. It is going to be very, very, very interesting for me to see, at least this opening weekend, how often do you try to go for 3? If it was a little bit further back, like let's say instead of the 10, it was the 15, I'd say, okay, dire situations, you do it when you need to. To the 10, if I were, Bob Stoops or Mike Tressman, I'd say give me it all day. I'll run a play from the 10 every time, see what I can get. Based on the success on opening weekend, I think it's really determined what we look at for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear your thoughts, JJ. On
I'm a little concerned about the 3 options. I kind of looking at it a little bit from, I know the NFL and college football analytics are starting to become more and more prevalent with how people make decisions on, should I go for it on 4th down? Should I go for 2? Should I go for 2 here or kick the extra point? Eventually, as we get more, as data comes out of how often do they convert on 1-point conversions, 2-point conversions, 3-point conversions, eventually there's going to become a standard again. And it might be, it's worth always going for 2. It's worth always going for 3. And if it's always worth going for 3, why would you ever go for anything else? And that is one thing I'm a little concerned about. I don't know how that's all going to shake out. You don't know that until you figure out how often people are converting from 10 yards out or 5 yards out. But that does concern me a little bit. It might just turn into everybody just goes for 3 all the time.
And that's really what I'm worried about the most, is given the double forward pass, given you can go for 3, and a 9-point play is so much better than iffy 7-point play. To me, it's almost a no-brainer to go for 3 every time, whereas if you could still kind of kick your extra point, it's okay, I need to take automatic points. Or, 50-50, go for 3, and why not?
Yeah, I don't think we'll see a lot of 2-point conversion attempts. I think you're either going to see 1 or 3. I don't think you're going to see 2. It's just not. There's the risk reward is too imbalanced at 2, right? Because it's harder to get than 1, but it's riskier, and you pretty much have the same amount of risk because the sets of plays that you can run from the 5-yard line are roughly the same from the 10-yard line, right? So it's your risk reward is going to be a lot better from the 10-yard line than the 5 to get 2. So I think you're going to see those 2 options the most.
Yeah, and I think that's that's kind of that risk reward is what's going to eventually come out, and the teams that employ this is another reason I think the younger, more analytically driven coaches are going to do well in this league because they're going to figure that out first, and they're going to take advantage of that. So it's going to, but I do think you're right. It's probably going to be a situation where you're either going for 1 or 3 the majority of the time because, the risk reward on 2 doesn't make sense. Or it might end up being the risk reward on 1 doesn't make sense. There's one of those 3 is going to get basically.
Yeah. And what's our 5th gameplay innovation there, Caleb?
Our 5th gameplay innovation is going to be the overtime rules, which is fun, but also kind of strange. Tell me how overtime works in the XFL, because I'm still a little unsure about it myself. I've watched it. I've read the rules. We'll read them a little bit. We'll skim them here. Overtime will consist of 5 rounds staged in alternating single-play possessions, as is customary in things like the NHL shootouts or Major League Soccer's penalty kicks. So basically, what's going to happen is during overtime, the way I understand it is during overtime, Team 1 is going to get 1 shot to make a score, right? And then they're going to switch sides, and the other team will get 1 attempt to make the score. They either make it or they don't. But they do that 5 times, so they flip 5 times. Yeah. So there's 10 total plays, and whoever has the most points at the end of those 10 plays wins the game, unless it becomes mathematically impossible for one team to win based on how many wins the other team has, or how many points the other team has in the overtime rounding. So, for example, if one team wins 4 and the other team only has 1, it's mathematically impossible for them to, even if they won all of the remaining rounds, it would be mathematically impossible for them to win the game.
Now, Caleb, to answer me your question really quick, and you may not know this, but so when a team is trying in this kind of penalty shootout situation, they can kick a field goal for 3, or are they going for a touchdown for 6?
No. They go touchdown for 1.
Okay.
It's just 2 points.
It's just 1 point.
So we're looking at best.
1 point. Yeah.
No, they're worth 2. They're worth 2 points.
Oh, I'm sorry. They're worth 2 points.
But still, same. Yeah, you can only score 2 points. That's it.
Yeah. So.
And the defense cannot score points on a turnover.
Nope.
So if you intercept the ball, you might as well just sit on the ground, because even if you were to run that back to your side, it would not count as a point to your team. Which is, I think that's bad. I would prefer, even if it was just 1 point, if you intercept it and go back, you get 1 extra point. Because then you could have sort of these cool, last minute, comeback from hell situations because of a really cool defensive stop from a forced fumble or an interception or something like that, to come in and secure that 1 point and win by that 1 point in overtime.
Yeah, I think the reason they can't is because of the way they're setting up the rules. Though it's kind of like a go no go situation. Yeah. Either the offense scores or the offense doesn't score.
Yeah.
If the offense scores, the 2 points is really only there for betting purposes, because they have to have the score go up for like point totals and everything else.
True.
But in reality, it's going to be like if you've ever watched an NHL game or a soccer game, they just put a check mark. That's basically all it is. It's going to be, did the offense score or not? And if not, if it's a no, there's a big X. If they get it, there's a check mark. That's pretty much all it's going to be. And that's why the defense scoring, it's still an X. It's still the offense doesn't score.
Exactly. We're looking at 11 goalkeepers on the field, and that's all it comes down to.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting to say the least. I still prefer colleges, and I may not be the only one, if I'm gauging the room correctly, that feels that way. That
I would prefer college. Football.
Yeah, college still is the best. I mean, a penalty shootout is basically what they made the 6th, 7th infinity overtime rule in college now. We haven't seen that. I don't think we've seen that yet, but it's, to me, I'd rather see the game continue to play out. Who knows? At this point, I could be tired of people scoring because it's probably going to be infinity to infinity, but just my take at this point.
I agree. And two other, another point here, they're going to have to save plays for this from the 5-yard line, which also means most likely, again, we go back to the point after thing, you're not going to use your plays in case, like if it's a close game, you're going to save those plays for overtime. You're not going to go for 2, you're going to go for 1 or 3. You're going to have a lot of plays from the 5-yard line, I'm assuming, but you're going to want to have 5 really great plays if you have to run them in overtime. So you're not going to use them on a random 2-point conversion,
And maybe that comes into play with the other rule about the 2 points for the 5-yard line. Maybe because they have those plays in case they have to go to overtime, and they want to play those in gameplay situations. So it may be sort of a coaching decision to say we're going to go from 2 for 2 from the 5, so that we'll have some in-game experience in case we need it in overtime.
Yeah.
Early on, but you also don't want to show your hand, right?
True.
You don't want to go into that overtime period and like, we saw this play already. They ran it on the second 2-point conversion.
And I wish we did have a little bit more flexible response, like maybe take a field goal from, let's say, the 15 or the 20 for a single point, or you could go for it from the 5 or 2-point. But at the end of the day, we're really just going to have to see how this one plays out.
Yeah, for sure.
The other thing that concerns me about this, quickly before I move on, is the way they're doing the penalties. Offensive penalties, they do it again from the 10 if it's a pre-snap penalty. Defensive penalties, if it's the first one, then the offense gets to go from the 1-yard line. Any defensive penalty after that, the offense just gets the 2 points. So if you're on the last round and the defense committed an offsides in the first round and there's defensive pass interference, they don't redo the play. The offense just gets the point. And I think that'll be very controversial.
I would not want to be that player on Monday that makes that that gets that defensive penalty the second time around.
Yeah, for sure. That would not be good.
So we were talking a little bit earlier about, we were talking about Tampa Bay. Brian in the chat said Tampa Bay. He said Tampa Bay could use a championship football team to make us forget about the Bucks. So, well, how do you think, St. Louis feels? Right? Like their team just packed up and left, so they've got a team now. So I think, and that's what I kind of want to talk about next. Like, Dick mentioned it a little bit earlier about, empty stadiums would be sort of the worst thing that could happen for the league right now. So he's hoping that people go out. There are 2 stadiums that I'm pretty sure are going to be pretty jam-packed well, actually just one because these 2 teams are playing against each other. But St. Louis ticket sales have been great, and Dallas ticket sales have been great on the charts, at least. So we do have some strugglers with New York not doing very well in the ticket sales department. And LA's not doing too hot either. So what do you guys think these small, and I don't want to say Dallas is a small town, but it has small town character, I think. And it's not nearly as big as New York or Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But, I live close enough to it. I would say, I said the wrong word. It doesn't have like small town character, but I think it has people that would like to live in a small town living in a big city, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think the reason that, this is kind of a simple answer. The reason that they're doing well is the same reason why Texas has 2 XFL teams is Texas loves football, right? Texas loves football. They're going to watch football whenever it's on, and that's why they've got 2 XFL teams. That's why Dallas is doing well on ticket sales. I think that's the simple reason for that, and I think St. Louis, you already mentioned, they lost their team, and we saw the same thing in the AAF. Teams that are places that didn't have a team before, they embraced it. They wanted a team to stay around. So I think that's another reason why they're trying to support it, so they don't fold like the AAF did, because they want St. Louis to have a football team again.
For me, to your point, JJ, Texas loves football. When you look at it on its face, the most football-heavy state in the country.
Mhm.
But the Cowboys are exorbitantly expensive if you want to go see. It is impossible to go, like, I mean, look at Caleb. You have 5 kids and a wife. To get 7 Cowboys tickets, you're out over $500.
Oh,
If you
yeah.
get parking, guess what?
Easy.
Food, everything. You're at $1,000. I mean, it's ridiculous how expensive it's gotten.
Yeah.
On the other hand, college games, there's not really a team in Dallas. SMU's really picked it up, but I remember when I was a kid, we used to take the freaking dart rail from where I lived north of Dallas into Dallas and go to an SMU game for like $10.
Yeah.
Like, it was stupid how empty the stadium was and how easily we could get in if we wanted. There wasn't really a good team that you could rally around. Everyone, at least in college, is either a Texas or a Tech or an A&M fan.
Yeah.
Guess what? You're driving at least 3 hours in order to go see them. Cowboys, you can't afford to go see. So it's going to be really. I mean, I've actually got my tickets. My fiance and I are going to be going to opening day on Sunday, and they were only $90.
Yeah.
You can spend a reasonable amount on a ticket. Maybe
This
it's something to eat for $20 and actually have a good time. It's the same reason why, like, one of our minor league baseball teams here, the Frisco Rough Riders, sells out almost every game. It's an affordable thing to go do with your family, and if you love the sport, you can actually go and see it in person, which you can't always say about a professional team.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that. Do you guys think that if and this is way too early, but it's the beginning of the year, and a lot of people have been talking about this because it's been that no games have happened yet. Everyone's just been discussing. So I want to get into a little bit just of is that the market strategy moving forward if expansion happens to get away from the bigger towns and more tradition. I don't say bigger, but we'll say more traditional football towns, right? For pro and go to more college level. Like what if they put? Oh, go ahead.
I'm gonna speak on JJ's behalf. I will be shocked if they expand and Pennsylvania isn't one of the first states to get a team. Just what it comes down to.
I would have said like Ohio would be a good one. Only because like they have 2 pro teams, but pro is a stretch for both of those teams.
Yeah.
So I mean I just feel like maybe Ohio needs a team that might actually be able to win something. Even though I'm a Baker fan and I've been following the Browns for 2 years, go dog pound. I just can't see it with the ownership there. But maybe some of these smaller markets could really, like Alabama doesn't have a pro team. Do you think Alabama would be a good spot for a pro team for the XFL?
Dick, you're shaking your head. I do. I think these smaller, not smaller markets, can't be a small market, but these bigger cities in random states that don't have.
What's what non-traditional pro sports areas?
And so it's tough because the XFL. The reason that they're in these bigger cities is for the TV and streaming market services, right? They want that's how they're going to make a lot of their money. Like they want people to come to games. They're going to make a lot of their money from people watching it on TV. And you're more likely to get. You might not have diehard fans in New York, but you'll get people turning it on. And you need to make sure you still have the numbers. So the city has to be big enough. But if you can find a city that has large enough numbers that'll be invested, I think that's what they're going to need to look for. I think that's something that the AAF did well, even though they died. But I think from my perspective, I don't really have a team to root for yet because there's no teams in Pennsylvania, and I'm not really going to root for New York or DC because that's gross.
Who are you picking? I don't know if we've determined that yet. Who are you? Tampa Bay?
But yeah, that's who I think is going to. That's who I think is going to win. But if there was a team in Philadelphia, I don't think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to, attach to them like they attach because they're so attached to the Eagles. They won't let go of that. Like I don't think there's enough room in certain cities' hearts for another team. And I think you have to find. It's going to take more than just the size of the city. I guess is what I'm getting at. You got to find a city that is willing to accept another team and will also embrace and really support it in large numbers.
And I'm with you in that, but to me, anything the AAF did is tainted by the fact that they couldn't even finish the season. When I look at the markets they selected, Arizona, okay, they can't support the team they have. The Cardinals have a notoriously shallow fan base. Why did you pick them? Or Orlando? I mean, Orlando's a great city. Obviously, the Magic has a following, but do they have a big enough following to mandate a football team? Which takes exponentially more resources, more fans in order to support. San Antonio, same thing. I'm with you 100%. I don't think New York and LA are necessarily great football markets, but I think New York is a great market for the Giants. Historically, they're a great market for the Jets. LA is good for a winning team, but there's a reason so many teams have moved out of it. Pick markets that have a hunger for football that maybe can make room in the spring for another. I'm with you. I don't think Philadelphia is necessarily the answer. Funnily enough, I'd almost lean more toward Pittsburgh, even though
probably honestly.
Exactly, the fandom for the Steelers is, in my mind, exponentially more just omnipotent in Pittsburgh than it is in Philadelphia. But
they also don't have a basketball team either, so it's less things that they're focused on in that time period. I think that they should target cities that the MLS is in, because I think that's the perfect size stadium for them right now. They don't need the huge stadiums. The infrastructure is already in place for them then.
That's a
wonderful point. You can fill up 30,000 seat stadiums.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I would have thought of that. The AAF was targeting basketball. Maybe the XFL should target soccer. Yeah. As funny as that sounds to say out loud.
Well, it makes them look better, right? You can fill a 30,000 seat stadium. It makes you look better than if you're got 30,000 people there, but it's, over half empty. I mean, it's a better optics thing. It's better for, getting people to invest in a league.
Well, if you had to break it down, if they were to expand to one team East and one team West, what would those cities for you be?
For me, West, I'd have to go with Las Vegas Outlaws. If there was a single team to bring back, Las Vegas had the character, they had the following. To me, it would just make sense.
I agree, and I love the name Outlaws too. It wasn't one of the weirder names of the original XFL, like the LA Extreme.
Well, that's not an original one,
but yeah, I think Vegas Outlaws is actually just a solid name. I mean, it's historically accurate to the territory. There were a lot of outlaws and things like that, or like they could even, do something. They could even do something like that with like Dodge City, Kansas, or one of those other old Western towns, Silver City, things like that. But I think Vegas Outlaws makes a lot of sense. So what about for the East?
JJ, you're West
Columbus. I think Columbus makes a lot of sense. They have an MLS team. They have an MLS team, and you've got lots of Ohio State fans that they're probably not loving their pro teams right now, right? Like it gives them someone else to watch. I think that one would make the most sense, because I think that's where you're gonna get. I think that's where you get the most investment. And then in the West, I think it would probably still be Las Vegas. I do think that Salt Lake City wouldn't be a bad one either, though.
Yeah.
Well, what about you, Dick, for the East?
For the East, I think a team Pennsylvania would be great. Columbus is an excellent option. Really, I'd like to see another team in Pittsburgh, honestly. I think that Philadelphia has room in their heart. Well, I shouldn't say Philadelphia. Pennsylvania has room in their hearts for the Eagles, the Steelers, and Penn State. I think they could certainly make room for a spring league team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be that hard for a Penn State fan who lives in Philadelphia to also root for an XFL team in the state.
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh would work out well. I think that'd be the better spot. I think you can get people to support a Pennsylvania team, but I think in terms of getting people to go to the games, that would be a better spot because, like I said, Philadelphia is also very invested in their basketball team. They get people to sell out that stadium. People are going to spend their money there first. They're going to spend their money on other things first, whereas I think you might get more investment from Pittsburgh people.
Yeah, and it would make sense to kind of play where the Pirates are.
Yeah.
You could make it work.
Well, I've got Underage Beer here who actually took both of my answers. I was going to say agree with Dick on Vegas, but I was going to say go with my original thought of Birmingham, Alabama as a team to the East. I really do. I like the idea of having a team in Alabama for some reason. If not Alabama, maybe somewhere. I like maybe the Carolinas. I think could support another team and would do well. Possibly, maybe even Tennessee. Basically, that whole area.
Team?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Didn't Birmingham have an AAF team?
They had an XFL. Birmingham had an AFL. I think they had an AAF team and they had an XFL team.
Yeah, they had an XFL.
The XFL team was Thunder, but I think they had an AAF team as well. So
we can look it up real quick. Birmingham AAF. They were the Birmingham Iron.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yep.
Birmingham Iron.
That's another one. They tried to play in UAB Stadium, right? Like that's a big stadium for a team that is just starting.
Well, I mean, right now UAB plays out Legion. If I'm not mistaken, they still do, which is an absolutely atrocious venue if you've never been. They're getting a new stadium, which is fantastic. But I would be reticent to embrace Birmingham until UAB gets that stadium. Things get off the ground a little bit more there.
Well, that may be a big reason why they didn't put a team in Alabama. All right, let's. We're getting close to the wrap up here, so let's. We'll jump to the pick'ems and we'll kind of extend these a little bit and talk about the games and the teams that are coming up. So, welcome to the brand new XFL 2020 Pick'em screen. It looks beautiful, guys. I know you guys can't see it because you're here sitting with me, but it looks amazing. So let's talk about game number one. We've got Seattle versus DC. It's going to be the first game. That's going to be the inaugural game of the XFL. And I would have thought it would be Dallas-St. Louis being the first one because I think that's the best game of this slate, these four games. I am excited to see individual teams, but none of these games excite me like Dallas and St. Louis. I'm biased, of course, because both me and Dick are going for, Dallas, raise some hell. But let's talk first about Seattle and DC. DC has arguably one of the two best quarterbacks in the league. I think the two best quarterbacks in the league share not only the fact that they are the two best quarterbacks in the league, but they also have the last name Jones. I think Landry Jones and Cardale Jones are the best quarterbacks in the league. But I am open to arguing that with people if you would like. That being said, I think Cardale Jones is going to have a breakout game. It's going to be really awesome. If he's healthy, I've heard some rumors he's not healthy, which would be really weird because Landry Jones isn't healthy, so he's not playing his first game. But everything I've heard about this game just sounds like it's going to go the way of DC. No one's really giving Seattle any credit. Is there any credit for Seattle out here?
Not for me. I'm a little worried that this is the game they chose to lead off, because I think Seattle's going to be the worst team in the league, and I think it again has to do a lot with coaching. I don't think Jim Zorn is not a very good football coach. He failed tremendously in the NFL, and that was his only other head coaching job. And he's now finally getting another chance at the age of 66, which is, I think, a little dated for what this league is going to turn into. They're also starting a quarterback. They were supposed to be starting Brandon Silvers from Troy, who was decent in the AAF, but he got passed up for BJ Daniels, who didn't even want to play quarterback. BJ Daniels wanted to play wide receiver in the XFL, and he is now going to be the starting quarterback for Seattle, which is not a great look for that team. And I just don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna be very good. Zorn loves to run the ball. This league's not going to be about running the ball.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem like a fit to me.
For me, again, it's going to be really hard to judge these games on anything other than the rosters. Cardell Jones, I hope, comes out playing angry. He's always going to be remembered as the third string he came out and won Ohio State and Natty.
Yeah.
I hope that, being cut from the NFL, not working out, being declared a bust, even though he's taken in the fourth round, I hope that's going to surface. I don't think that's necessarily his personality, but I hope he plays angry. I hope he proves me wrong, and I hope he has a great game and the defenders come out on top.
Fair enough. All right, so just to clarify here, who are you picking, Dick, for
DC.
DC for sure? Boom.
DC.
You're there, locked in, DC. You're going with DC as well? Boom, locked in, DC. Guys, it's not going to come as a surprise, but I'm also going to go with DC on this one. All right, so let's move on to the next game, unless you guys have anything else you want to discuss about the Seattle game. All right,
Nope.
We've got the Wildcats versus the Roughnecks in game number 2 of the XFL. I'll be honest with you, and I just judging based on the looks on your faces, I don't know much about either of these two teams.
Nor do I.
The thing is, like, I can tell you the full roster of Dallas right now, but when it comes to these other teams, some of them, I know Cardell Jones, I know, some of the bigger names and things like that. But really, I haven't heard a lot of noise out of either of these, and that's the strange, because some of these teams you've heard noise about, right? Antonio Callaway was making waves with the Vipers, being signed with the Vipers. Cardell Jones with DC, Landry with the Renegades. I mean, hell, Bob Stoops being named the head coach of the Renegades pretty much secured them winning the conference or the league anyway. So, I mean, but Houston you haven't heard a lot about. Seattle you haven't heard a lot about. LA, I forgot LA even existed in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know absolutely zero about both teams. So, JJ, if you want to enlighten me, I can't even remember who I picked in the survey earlier.
I'm actually the most excited about this game out of all 4.
Okay.
I think these are going to be this is a bit of a hot take. You guys aren't going to like me for this. I think these are actually the 2 teams that come out of the West. I don't think Dallas comes out of the West. In my opinion, I think these are the 2 teams that end up coming out of the West. With Houston being slightly better because I think they have a better coaching staff than LA does. But Josh Johnson, I think, is going to be the best quarterback in the XFL, and he plays for Los Angeles. He's by far the most athletic quarterback that we're going to see, and I think that is going to play directly into that high octane, fast paced offense that we're going to see. I think he plays directly into that, and I think Houston has the better coaching staffs. PJ Walker, you guys don't know him, he went to Temple. He's a very good quarterback at Temple. He did a lot of really good things. They've got Andre Williams for a running back. He was at Boston College. He ran for like 200 yards 8 times at Boston College or something. I think both teams are going to be very, very good. I think this is going to be the most competitive game of the weekend.
Yeah. Well, they just announced the other side of the ball. The Roughnecks here just announced PJ Walker is their starting quarterback on the 5th. So yesterday, they did finally announce that PJ Walker would be the starting quarterback there for that game.
Yeah,
so I'm going to have to completely disregard every opinion you have here from here on out. That Dallas isn't even going to make it out of the West. I just don't see how anyone could have that opinion just based on the facts alone. I mean, Bob Stoops is coaching 18 of his former players. They know the system.
I think you're a little biased because his former players are also your, former.
This sounds like
the
perfect segue into the Renegades versus the Battlehawks.
Yes, it is. But first, we have to actually get our picks in. So I got to push the buttons here. So, Dick, LA or Houston on this one?
I think I'm going to go with Houston. I think that's what I said earlier.
All right. Locked in, Houston Rednecks. JJ, where are you going?
I'm also going with Houston. I think again, this is a CFL coaching staff. I think they adjust a little bit quicker.
For no other reason than, number one, I'm already finding it difficult and stomach ache inducing to have to root for a team in Texas, I damn sure am not going to give a second one any love. So I'm going to go with LA on this one myself.
Gotcha. So, Renegades Battlehawks, some are calling it the game of the century, opening day. I could be wrong, but I think Dallas is, kind of the flagship city for the XFL here.
I can see that. I can see that. So for when it comes down to this one, I think what we're gonna go with is, Dallas St. Louis game is gonna be just absolutely fantastic. I think it's gonna be the premier game of the season. Maybe that's why it's the last one instead of the first one. But that's the biggest thing. Let's just talk about this. St. Louis, I haven't heard a whole lot about other than just, obviously there are a lot of excited St. Louis fans because they finally have their team again, right? And they have a team that they can root for. But Dallas is legitimately going to, not as much now as it was when it first came out, because I think they literally did have like 9 former Oklahoma players on the team. They actually only have like 3 or 4 now. But I mean, they had like Dimitri Flowers, Jeff Badette, Landry Jones, obviously at quarterback, and I think they have a defensive lineman that was from Oklahoma as well, Frank Alexander, I believe it was. So, and I think he's still there. Actually, I don't know why I was saying was on there. But a lot of these players that he has are in key positions. His quarterback, Bob Stoops is the head coach of Dallas, and he was the former head coach of Dallas's quarterback, of 2 of Dallas's wide receivers, of Dallas's running back, and of one of the defensive players, right?
Well, not only that, when I look at it, I think, again, I totally understand where you're coming from, JJ. I think it's a very smart point that the CFL is going to be a little bit closer to what the XFL is trying to accomplish rather than college or the NFL. I do think Bob Stoops is the best coach that I've seen on the slate.
Yeah.
Just in terms of what he's accomplished. I mean, truth be told, it's a bias on my part. I've seen a lot more of Bob Stoops, and I've seen a lot more successful Bob Stoops than I have in any other coach in the XFL. But I think that when they were initially formulating this league, he was probably one of the first names that they came up with and they approached and they got, because, to be quite honest, I wouldn't be as excited as I am for another Dallas team if it weren't for Bob Stoops. Landry Jones, I can honestly care less about. Badette, I really like Badette. But for me, Bob Stoops is it. I have faith in him. I think he retired early because he wanted to do right by Oklahoma, and I don't think he'd return to anything in CFB because he's so loyal to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I think this is kind of the outlet for him in the years that he's been kind of on the bench, wanting to get back out there.
He can stay close to home, stay close to his kids, that are in college at OU now. So, I mean, I think this was a perfect storm and the perfect opportunity for him to do this for sure. But, I mean, I just can't see how you can't see Dallas coming out of the West with the way they're set up. I mean, it's an air raid league, and they have an air raid mastermind with an air raid quarterback and air raid receivers.
I don't know. I mean, we've seen Landry Jones. I know he's the one with the most. Him, Matt McGloin, and Josh Johnson all have NFL experience. The other guys don't have any NFL. Landry Jones wasn't fantastic in the NFL, and he was playing with some pretty fantastic weapons. He was playing with Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell. He was playing with studs, like NFL studs, and he didn't exactly come off the page as a stud quarterback or even a decent quarterback in the NFL. And he's going to be throwing at dudes that are not on those guys' level. Yeah. So I think him being, the top quarterback is being overrated. I think, again, going back to, we're looking at, I think the league is going to trend towards young and innovative coaches. And if Bob Stoops rolls out, his normal college playbook, I don't know that it's going to just automatically work like it did at Oklahoma. Just because it worked at Oklahoma, if he rolls out the exact same stuff, doesn't mean it's just going to start to work in the XFL, because you saw all the different rule changes. There's going to be a lot of different things that need to be taken into account to have a successful offense, or at least one of the best offenses in the league. And I think, to me, I think it's just you're talking about a team that's coming in as everyone's calling them the odds-on favorite to win the whole thing. I don't see them as this head and shoulders team above everybody else.
Fair. Well, let me ask you this: who are you picking, St. Louis or Dallas?
It's in Dallas. I think on the sheet I picked Dallas by a point.
You're saying Dallas by a point. All that talk, and you're still picking Dallas.
It's in Dallas.
That's like Dick last season.
What's the point even mean?
It's in Dallas, and I don't have St. Louis. I don't have St. Louis that high.
Fair enough.
In my opinion, 3 of the 4 best teams are in the West, which is part of the reason why I don't have Dallas coming out. Because I think Dallas, Houston, and Los Angeles are 3 of the 4 best teams. Tampa being that other team from the East, I think.
You don't think DC is a top 4 team?
I don't.
Wow.
We
have like the polar opposite.
I don't think Cardale Jones is going to be that great. Well, like you look at the betting, DC's not highly rated to win the XFL.
Yeah.
No, I don't think they'll win the XFL.
Tampa Bay,
I think
LA,
I think
the top 4.
I think the championship game for the East is going to be DC Tampa Bay. Personally.
I think it ends up being St. Louis, Tampa Bay, but I think DC will be right there.
Fair enough.
Okay.
I don't think it's a surprise. I'm going Dallas. Where are you at on that one, Dick?
I'm absolutely going to be Dallas. I'm going to get my first Ice Blue merch as soon as I get there. And, yeah, I'm going to be looking forward to going to every home game I can.
Real quick, because we're out of time, Vipers versus the Guardians.
Well, no, wait.
Well,
if
okay.
we're going to spend time on anything, JJ did allude that he thinks Tampa Bay is
the
his
best
favorite
team.
pick and all.
So that's also who I'm picking this week, just to put that. I'm picking Tampa Bay over New York.
Okay,
And
so
kind of overarching, we cut you off earlier, but I'd really love to hear your justification for why Tampa Bay is your favorite for taking it all.
Yeah, it has to do with, I think it's the most underrated rule change is that coach to player communication. You have to, it's not just as, it sounds simple to be able to tell guys where to line up, tell guys, like, this is what play we're running, you got to be here, here, and here. You got to be able to direct traffic. If you're the wide receivers coach talking to the wide receivers, you got to be able to direct traffic. And the fact that all of these coaches are going to have experience with it, they're going to be trying to implement this, and they don't need to practice it. They know how to do it. I think that's going to allow them to run a very seamless offense, and also defensively, be able to, call audibles on the fly. Like their whole staff has experience with it. Aaron Murray is their quarterback. I think he's not getting enough love for how good of a quarterback he was in college against SEC defenses. He's not getting enough love for one of the better quarterbacks in the league. And again, if you can tell your receivers exactly what routes to run, you can do it effectively, the defense isn't going to know how to stop him. And I think Aaron Murray's a good enough quarterback to take advantage of that.
Well,
Excellent.
Is that enough to convince you? Are you picking TB now, Dick?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really excited about New York coming out of it. Just going through the rosters, there wasn't a whole lot that jumped out at me.
Yeah.
I'm with you about Tampa Bay. Looking at their CFL coaching staff, looking at who they have on the field, I was going to give them the edge.
I'm going to be in the same boat with you. I appreciate the insight on Tampa Bay, and I'm super excited to learn more about Tampa Bay because, it may be a possibility that we'll be playing them in the championship game come the end of the year. So, I'll be excited to chat with you about that. But I too, am going to go with Tampa Bay, going with the Vipers on this one. So it looks like we are pretty much all in agreement on 3 out of the 4 games. The only game differing is LA-Houston, where I have LA and you guys have Houston. Every other game we are completely the same on.
all those unknowns that are going to be about
it's
this
true.
league, we have it all figured out.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. We don't know exactly what's going to happen.
Well, guys, I was told by our good friend Will, who, if you watched us during the college football season, you'll know Will. He was out there on the lookout trying to get us some media passes to go to these various games that are happening, and I don't know if this is a good thing, a bad thing, or what the case is, but all of our media passes were denied. No love.
Oh.
No love.
Who saw that?
Listen, there's two things I want to talk about with this really quickly. Number one, hopefully it's a really good thing, and there's a lot of interest in the XFL, and that's probably what happened. There's so many different people that want to get in these first games to see if it's going to be something. A lot of media outlets trying to get there. No love for a little podcast like us, and that's fine. It was worth a shot, and we took it. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and we always take our shot. But more importantly than that, if you guys will show us some love, maybe the XFL will show us some love as well and get us some of those media passes. So like us, share us, talk about us, show your friends in the morning, Monday morning when we come back and we were right about our predictions and things like that. Or follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Subscribe to us here on YouTube. It's all good. It's all the same. That's all you got to do. Show us a little bit of love. We'll show you a little bit of love. And maybe the XFL will finally give us some damn media passes. That's all I got for you this week, folks. Any last words, JJ or Dick?
Raise some hell.
Raise some hell. We'll see you next week.